you need to become in order to achieve that goal? Who is the version of you who has already achieved that goal? How are they different than you now? Cool. Let's work on that person.
Hey, it's Nikki Llewellyn Gregory, and you're on Gut Plus Science. You're in for a fast-paced, storytelling, action item-rich leadership growth experience. I hope you make this podcast a habit. I consider it a leadership mentoring tool. Learning together makes us better together, and that is how we change the world around us. Let's get to it.
Hey, it's Nikki back on Gut Plus Science, and today I am so excited about this guest. She is someone that I would consider my new coach, Lo Myrick. So I got your name right, right? Lo Myrick. So Lo is with me. We had one session. I think it was 15 minutes. Maybe we extended over. You gave me a little bit more time than our prep call to get to know each other because a dear friend, I'm trying to think of our dear friend that introduced us. It was like it happened so fast.
We burn.
And her episode was amazing. We were talking about American Express lounges. Come on, background working with American Express. I'm like, of course, it's the best card. Like, oh, and just all the things that I learned from her. So good. She's actually sent over, I think, 3 people. Anyway, I think you might be my favorite. So we met, and I really think that you saved, I was gonna say save the day. You saved my day that day. I was emotional. I'll probably cry. I was burning out. I was struggling with very important relationships in my life. I don't know anyone more intentional about relationships than me. I categorize my relationships and I have a system for my A's, my B's, my C's. I do it every year with my husband. We have individual friends, we have couple friends, and the core of all of I think what we share in common is love. Like that's the central focus. And we're here to be leaders that love, friends that love, love ourselves and our health, take care of ourselves, everything rooted in love. And I think consciousness. And today we're talking about things like internal awareness, emotional regulation, redefining or reframing leadership from all angles and all people. You don't have to have a leadership title to be a leader. You're a leader in every role, your finances, your spiritual life. You might be a leader at your church. You might be a leader on your daughter's softball team. You might be a leader on the IndyCar track. I'm in Indianapolis and we just had the greatest spectacle in racing with 350,000 people that fill the largest track in the world. Not a big race car person until it's Indy car, and it will give you chills. It will make you cry. It's one of the most special things about living in Indianapolis. But all of sports performance, all of uh changing the tires, like, do you know how fast those cars come in? And every single person changing the tires, is multiple ones on every single one. They are leading and consciously knowing we're all collectively centered in our truth, our vision for life, and holistically, like our whole lives, like it is a collective. And I feel like I'm talking in tongue right now, and we're gonna break this down with my coach, Lo. I want to lead at a high level without losing myself. I want to practice healthy and necessary boundaries. I want to eliminate guilt. I want to help other people do that. I want to focus on my identity work. And ultimately, I want to operate from alignment instead of pressure. And, whatever that is to be more efficient, I've got coaches with an S, I got therapists with an S. So, Lo Myrick, my friend Lo, welcome to Gut Plus Science. Today, we're going to talk about the hidden cost of high performance and how conscious leaders reclaim control. And I said so much in that intro, but I need you to summarize for us. What are high performing leaders not saying out loud right now? Or where are you seeing those biggest internal struggles that no one talks about, but you bring it to the stage?
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this. Also, you said so many things in the intro that I have to come back to one or two of them. I will answer this question first though. So what I see, and this has kind of been a through line over the years. I've been coaching for, I don't know, 13 years now. Every person has invisible bottlenecks that they are working through. And I say invisible bottlenecks because so many high performers are that like, they are high performing, right? But what we don't realize is, like, we've bottlenecked ourselves, and we're actually limiting our own capacity through a number of different things, which we will get into. There's those internal shifts, the nervous system regulation, being able to set boundaries. One thing that I've been diving into recently that I'm just really I'm kinda gonna make this a bit of my next focus and pull this into my new keynotes is information overload and decision fatigue, and how those are massive bottlenecks that everyone's facing right now, that we are not consciously aware of, and to be that intentional leader, it is about realizing your scope and not just looking at like, "Oh, to be a good leader, I have to make sure I, show up on the team calls." Like, okay, that's one aspect, but how do we do all the aspects well? And most importantly, starting with yourself. Because if you are not taking care of yourself, then everything else you do is going to fall flat. Like, it might work for a little bit, but it's gonna come crashing down.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna come crashing down.
Yeah. Yeah, let me tell you about it. I just have had some times recently, and thank God for the people around me. Thank God for my amazing husband. I have had quite a few relationships in my past. I think there's so many different ways to go about life and to be open to everyone's way, right? And you were saying about decisions. So, gut plus science, I'm a data nerd mixed with I don't get into the big fine comb details. I'm not the one that pulls together the Excel files as easily. More of a read the report, right? And when you look at any statistics, like, I like to read Reuters, like Reuters, Reuters, the news, right? Because I look at micro, meso, macro. Micro is me and what I'm doing today. Meso is my team or my household or my community, my neighbors. And then macro is like, well, how are we doing at the White House? And so looking at all of those and all of the decisions that at every level we have to make, and you look at the statistics, and that's the science side of gut plus science, you can get this decision fatigue that shuts you down where you're just not making any, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, how do we have a morning practice? And how many times do I talk to some people, and it's like, okay, I, set my coffee pot before I go to bed, and it goes off, and then I'm in my car, and my car time, some people have an hour and a half drive to work, so that's their morning routine. And for some of us that work remote, so I work remote, my address is in the cloud, if you will. And so I have to not go straight to my desk the second I wake up, right? I got to take time. I called a friend this morning. I'm driving back from a trip, and she's just wrapping up her meditation. I was like, "Can you tell me what it did for you today?" Right? As I'm sitting there listening to rap music on my way back from the Indy 500, you know what I mean? And it's like I had to get my coffee, and I'm thinking about all the things, and song lyrics can be just so incredibly helpful. And it's like, what is your thing? Right? So let's start with the self, and let's talk about identity and how much identity is at the core of all of this.
Yes. Well, we all have, this is my hypothesis, and, this is based on research that I've done. This is not like the psychology official terms, so we're just gonna roll with it. I believe we all have these personalities that we come to the world with, right? And then we get these layers on top of it of what society thinks and what we should do or what our parents are doing or what our community is doing or whatever, right? And so it kinda dims that personality, and we end up making decisions based on what we think we should do or who we should be or how we should show up rather than who we truly are or what feels right, like coming back to the gut piece of that, right? And so many of us get disconnected from our gut, and it takes us a while as adults to find our way back to it. And the more that you start to practice that and tap into your gut and the intuition, the more that it starts coming through, but it takes a little bit. And I think it's just so important to understand our personalities are also changeable. Our preferences are changeable. And when people say, "Oh, I'm an introvert," or "Oh, I'm an extrovert," I actually don't believe that is like a set static thing. I think it changes or people get stuck based on what they've been doing for the past, 90 days, year, whatever, 10 years, 20 years. 'Cause our brains want the same. Our brains wanna know, right, from our old programming when we used to be out, like, on the plains hunting the for food, they're like, "Ooh, I don't know what's good or bad right now." So our brains want safety, and our brains want what's known, and our brain is always going to go to the default. And so when you know these things, then it becomes a lot easier to change them. And you can kind of tell yourself, and this is what I work with my clients on, like, okay, what is the default pattern or behavior that I have right now? Or belief. Beliefs are huge too. What do I wanna replace it with? Because so many people say, "Well, I don't wanna do this thing anymore," or, "I wanna set better boundaries." Okay, well, what does that look like? You have to give your brain and for those that are watching on, video, I'm pointing in 2 different directions here. If your default pathway is pathway A, you need to give your brain pathway B, and then repeat it and practice it, and then here's the other thing that a lot of people miss, you can't just say it out loud or write it on a sticky note, you have to physically embody it, and our nervous system and our bodies are such powerful tools that we've, like, forgotten how to use.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so much to say. This is really I nerd out on this topic because I am a sample. I'm like a case study, right? Like going through nervous system. I never even knew of like nervous system stuff or like really understanding like perimenopause or like fascia release or lymphatic, things like this. And when you get to an age, particularly as a woman, you're forced, right, to start to learn this stuff if you didn't know about it. And I think about the people that go before us, usually, a lot of times, you're growing up and it's your parents or whatever, they're modeling the way. That's a leader, right? They're modeling the way. And what I have learned, and I even tell my parents this, is it all starts and ends in our mind. Every day, you might be scared to do the road trip, right? And for some reason, maybe it was, I don't know, of somebody that got into a car accident. I don't know. It happens all the time. And so you get it in your mind and it becomes your monkey mind. That's what my mental performance, sports performance coach, who is 90 years old, and I've been coaching with him since for 21 years. I was talking to him just the other day and he asked me about how's your fitness going? And are you drinking your water? What kind of protein bars are you eating? How's your parents, right? And then at the very end, how's your business doing? Right? It's really, he calls it the champion mindset or the monkey mind. And he has modeled the way for me. And I will be teaching my parents, like on this road trip that they're on right now, with just a lot, getting older and helping them out. Go for the breath. Breathe.
Yes.
In through your nose for 4, out for 4.
Yeah,
In through your nose for 4.
don't even like it's so funny you said that because I just published a new breathing video and, like, you don't even have to remember the numbers. Like, just take a long, slow, deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, and if you make the exhale a little longer, perfect. Like, that's what's gonna help calm your nervous system.
Yes, yes, shout out for yoga,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's not even yoga, like, it's literally just breathing. How many of us, especially athletes, like, I was an athlete, and I was so disconnected from my body. Like, yes, there's ways I were connected to it, but I wasn't inhabiting my body. I was just constantly overriding and just learning how to just take a deep breath, and you would be well, you wouldn't be shocked because you know this, but how many workshops or keynotes I give, and I take people through just, "Hey, everyone, let's just take a deep breath right now." And people will come up to me after and say, "That is the first breath that I think I've taken in 10 years." And it is so crazy how much we're just, caught up in the busyness or having to do another thing or another thing. And we just forget to breathe. Like, if you literally take nothing else away from this podcast, just Take like 3 deep breaths.
Yeah. Watch your belly come out. Like, it's okay, like belly breathing, and like you said, maybe you don't have to count. A lot of times I'm like a systems person, so it's like, oh, do 4, you know what I mean? Well, however you do it, however, just but all the way in, right? And all the way out. Just a couple of those. One of my friends says, don't forget the greatest gift that you were given by God is the gift of breath. It's the only thing that you have when you're born and the only last thing you do before you die.
So true. It's so simple
And yeah,
and beautiful and powerful.
yes, yes. Okay, so I want to talk about boundaries because you were talking about should. I have a friend that wrote a book and he said the book's titled "Do Not Should on Your Kids."
My therapist told so, like, this is probably 15, 20 years ago working with my therapist, and I said "should" a lot, and she's like, "I want you to just remove 'should' from your vocabulary." I didn't say "should" for, like, 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and here we are talking about it. We're talking about we want to approach it from the in case that comes up for you. It still does for me. I catch myself like, I'll say things I'm going to, and I'm like, no, 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 I am. I am doing right now, right? Like it's living in the present moment, or I should know I get to. I get to, I am, like and so let's talk about how that relates to boundaries, boundaries at the micro level for ourselves, for others, for, the grander causes. Why first of all, why do we struggle with boundaries? Like why is that just a natural thing?
I think for this isn't for everyone, but I think a lot of people who are people pleasers or have people pleasing tendencies, there's also this piece of our brains that just wants us to fit in and be accepted and liked because literally, like some of this we have to understand from a survival mechanism, right? But our brains don't realize that, like, oh, we're safe now. Like most people's, not everyone, of course. Like I know there's people who are not in psychologically or physically safe situations, so holding space for them. But most of us are in physically and psychologically safe situations. Yet our brains still are like, "Ooh, I need to be liked and accepted," because it used to be like if you were ostracized from the tribe, like that was a death sentence. And so like that's like the long, look on evolution and like why our brains do that. But I think it's important to realize that part comes from and now we've just again just developed these systems and general processes in society. So it's not your parents' fault or any specific person's fault. It's just how it's evolved to the point where 70% of our beliefs are negative and disempowering, which is crazy and then that kind of is caught up in the like, "Oh, I need to people please. I have to do more to help people," or "I don't wanna upset anyone," or "I don't want, someone to think whatever about me," right? Fill in the blank, and especially when it comes to a work environment, like, we can talk about that specifically, about how, "Oh, I don't feel like I can set a boundary and say, 'Oh, I have to pick up my kid to go do this thing right now,' or just "Hey, can you do a meeting at this time?" "No." "No" is
Yeah.
a full
No.
sentence. You
Yep.
do not have to give an explanation or or like a reason or a validation. It could just be, "I can't do it." And so much of us have this need to prove ourselves rather than just standing in our power and being like we're first of all not okay with it internally, which is why we feel the need to like externally prove it to others.
Uh-huh. I tell myself I'm not a people pleaser. And, when I've had people that like, I can get rowdy, right? Like, I can get a little, like, mouthy about some stuff, And I'm like, "Okay, watch what I say," like, "Have patience. Patience is a virtue." And somebody's like, says something about, "Well, you're a people pleaser." It's a trigger. Like, I'm like, "No, I'm not. Oh, no, I'm not."
Which is
And
so okay, wait, this is so interesting though because it's such a big trigger, it actually means like you still have unresolved stuff.
yeah, it's a mirror, right? And then I went through this transformational workshop and this exact thing came up and I threw a fit. I threw a fit. I'm a sports player as well. Gotta be number one. There is no number two. That's how my dad taught me, right? We don't do team collaboration, from just winning the trophy for not winning or whatever that's called.
No
I don't know.
participation trophies.
Yeah, yeah, something, yes. Now I'm like, please just let's have everybody have a park. And I always love to see the winner too, you know what I mean? And I just like cheer for everybody. Like, I don't know. We spend so much time with this negative self-talk when it becomes real, or we feel like I'm okay with saying no, and I'm okay with putting no period, but I have to have a sentence behind it. Making sure. I have to make sure that they know, like, I have a real busy day, right? So I had to, and I'm like, "I bet you had a busy day too, so you probably want time back in your calendar," you know what I mean? Like, just trying to be nice and loving
It's
and
like this
caring.
over explaining though, because there's a difference between being nice and over explaining or trying to control the narrative also. Is another thing that comes up. Well, I don't want them to think this about me. And it's like, why? They could think other things about you, like whatever your interpretation is probably not correct anyway.
Oh my gosh, I have no idea how Kim Kardashian does it. Like, I'm like, how, like, I mean, I just don't understand. It's like she launches a new amazing Skims piece and then everyone is ripping on her. And I'm like, I mean, the rumors. And it's like, how do you just show up and you're just like, you know what? I heard many people say, I just don't read the comments. Like, I just don't.
Yeah, you can't and I do think, like, the Kardashians are an excellent lesson of, like, put on your blinders, do what feels right to you, and live your life, and I'm sure, like, they've read some in the past, right? Like, no one is completely immune to that stuff, but I think they've built up the tolerance of, like, people are gonna like this and people are gonna hate it, and the more exposure you get, the more of that there is, and the more that you and it's building resilience like anything, right? We have to slowly build up our resilience to that and just know you could I was coaching someone through this recently too. You could do something perfectly, and there are still gonna be people who don't like or you could I mean, and you've probably had this or people listening, like you've had an employee or a client where you've bent over backwards for them and they're still never happy. It's actually because 'cause you've bent over backwards that they're never gonna be happy, whereas actually setting that boundary. So here's how we, like, bring it back of instead of trying to make everyone happy and over explaining and all those things, standing in your power, being strong with your boundaries will actually make people or get people to respect you more because you're not trying to constantly please everyone, and then it just becomes a reciprocal respect and respect.
Yeah. So talk about when, what do we want to call it? You have a revelation. You wake up, right? You're like, whoa,
An
like I
epiphany
am
moment.
epiphany, like the light bulb is really going off. And so you're making a change in your life. Like you're working to practice this in action. We're talking about myself here. And anybody else that wants to participate in this experiment that I'm doing here with my new coach Lo is, how do you make that change when, I shared with you, I'm really intentional about relationships. And I don't really love always saying the word authentic, but like just real deal, right? I just myself. Now, you don't be exactly all of that to everybody, right? Like so let's say for the A's in your life, and sometimes those A's shift. I look back through my journals every year. I do this life will planning thing that my coach, Tommy, 90 years old, taught me. My husband does it too. We spend weeks doing these, right? And I look back at last year's journal compared to this one, and sometimes I see some of the A's that moved to the B's. Sometimes there's certain people that aren't even on the list anymore. And I want to cry about that. And I was just talking about someone that was a dear, dear, dear friend that, yeah, just a lot changed and we aren't really friends anymore. I mean, I don't have anything bad to say. I have a lot of funny memories. But how do you navigate just the sometimes it's okay to say that season closed or navigating an A friend? Like I have a friend that she got remarried and she has a 13-year-old son that I've been in his life since he was like 1. And now she has a new relationship and a new baby and 2 stepkids. So there's 4. So her child before was just an only child, right? And she was single for a while after, and I was there the whole and we're no longer doing the things we used to do, right? And but still being like, "Oh my god, I love you." Like, you know what I mean? So I'm just
Yeah,
like in a best
shifting
friend or
seasons in life, really. Yeah, and especially when someone's season is changing in relation to yours, and yeah, okay, so let's dive into this. So the first question is, how do you what's the story you tell yourself when, a relationship maybe ends or it's, time for your season and their season to shift? I think it's just honoring it, right? Like you said, I'm not harboring anything bad. We've just kind of grown our separate ways, and that's okay. That's normal. Look at nature, like things change all the time. And when people say now, like, oh, I hate change, like change is literally the only thing that's gonna keep happening to all of us, so the more that we embrace it, the better off we'll be, which is hard, right? Again, 'cause our brains want default, want what's known, they don't want change, but we can train ourselves to become more adaptable to it. So I think it's just, like, the love and the peace and, like, literally, like, coming back to what we said before about the nervous system, just doing a little prayer, sending them love even, sending them gratitude. There's also a grieving that needs to happen. So it's like, it's okay to, like, have a little grieving for that relationship that is no longer in your life and just give yourself grace about it, you know? And then the second piece, like, when those strong relationships shift a little bit, I think the same thing, right? Maybe your friend, she's got a lot more on her plate now, and she's like, "Holy crap, now I'm juggling 4 kids instead of 1, and I'm trying to get my bearings," so she doesn't have the same amount of time that she had before, but when you get together, it's, like, still amazing. There's a little grieving that has to happen for that too. This is so funny, I just thought of this, my intuition is calling it in for a reason. My friend and I were just talking about, like, "Oh, we miss, like, going to the club sometime." I mean, not, like, all the parts of it, but just, like, dancing and having fun, and it's like, "Oh, like, you gotta grieve that part of your life a little bit." And then, okay, like, what does this new relationship look like? And sometimes we have to have a conversation with people, especially our close friends or people you work with, when you realize, like, "Ooh, I need a boundary." Like, I realized probably 5 or 6 years ago that I was just constantly overgiving, and I really needed to bring in some boundaries and just say, "No, actually, I need more downtime." And there was a lot of different people that I had to start shifting things with. Some people, it was fine, like, they completely understood. I didn't really need to have, like, a direct conversation with them, but others I did because they were expecting me to be this old version of me, and I didn't wanna be that anymore. And this is something that I work with my clients a lot on, of, like, when you go through these massive changes, which we do in coaching work, you have to communicate to people, "Hey, I realized this about myself. This is what I was doing. This is how it was impacting me in a negative way, or I just want to be different now. And here's some of the things that I'm gonna be shifting. I just want you to know because I love you, I value you, and how can we work through this together? Because I still value your friendship, your who you are as an employee or colleague or whatever it is. I value you. How do we navigate this together?" Right? And then having that open communication will make things a million times easier. Most of the time, if you have that honest, authentic, vulnerable conversation, you'll be like, "Oh my god, I love that for you." And if they don't, then you know that it's time to make a bigger shift with that person, and that's really valuable information.
well, and I think you're hitting this right on the head with everything. We're talking about our individual selves and, marriages and best friends, workplaces, communication, the best friend relationship. I've asked for calls like Brittany on my team setting up like a 30-minute like Zoom. We maybe can't see each other. We live about 45 minutes away and with the baby and all that. It's hard and we're having trouble connecting and I'm like, I just want not that I need to call it closure, but because I don't like that word really, but like just, we're good. Are you good?" But just kind of the
I
mystery
have a
is
question though. Okay, so this is really good. Are you coming from a place of lack when you're reaching out rather than wholeness?
maybe.
That I s I see oftentimes as the big distinction. Like, if you're like, "Okay, I've reached out and I've tried like 3, 4, whatever times and it's not landing," like, maybe step back.
Yeah, that's what I've done. Also, too, I want to say my life evolves and change. I'm a jump in, do it. I was on 7 nonprofit boards. 7. Now
Nikki!
I know. I'm like, got something every night and tomorrow and this and I'm like, "Can I come in virtual for that one?" Like, wild. Now we have 2. We have 2 at little advertising for Homes of Hope, but we build homes with other leaders for those in need in Mexico, and it's the greatest team building leadership thing you could ever possibly do where you get together with strangers and you build homes for people who have never had them.
Oh, love that.
Oh, talk about rooted in love. Talk about you don't even know who you're building for until you get to meet them later. And I think everything in life with our energy is rooted in finding the meaning, right? Like, what is our why? And really are you really fired up about that? Because it's what will keep you going. Otherwise, I would be taking a nap right now, right? Like, it sounds really good to take a nap, but I'm like so fired up because I've got great interviews today. And I'm like, it's very meaningful to me, so I
To
want to be
do all
present.
the work you're doing and, like, that's what drives you. That's what I'm hearing, yeah. And how do you do that and not lose yourself, right? Like, that's the important question because people like you, which I very much was like that for a really long time, where I was like, "Go, go, go," 150 miles an hour, no stopping, no breaks, and for me, and I'm not saying this for you, for me, that was no longer sustainable, and so it was about, "Okay, how do I find this balance that feels right for me?" Or no, like, "Okay, yeah, like, I'm gonna have a 2-week sprint right now, and that's okay." But I'm not living my life like that. I'm living my life like a marathon, and I'm being conscious and intentional about these breaks or time off, and I literally this weekend, we were talking about it a little bit before we started recording, but I actually made myself disconnect from work for 48 full hours, and there was times where I had ideas, and I was like, "Nope," and I just wrote them down or said, like, "Remind me on Tuesday at 10 AM." I do that all the time. If you guys are not using Siri, just, "Hey, remind me to do this at 10 AM." It is the best thing ever. And I just forced myself to, like, have fun, and I try to do that, right, like, at least once a month where I have that, like, that full 48-hour disconnect to let my system reset, because also I found, and I find with a lot of clients, like and in the age we're in today, there are so many ideas. You could do a million different things. But if we're just constantly acting on every single thing that comes through, we start losing the meaning, and so it's almost like that time, 1, forces you to slow down, to then sit through and say like, "Okay, what are the actual important ideas that I have?" But 2, and this is really interesting, so there's something called the default mode network in our brains, and that is the time when our subconscious brain can kick in. Our subconscious brain is 10,000,000 times more powerful than our conscious brain, first of all, so, like, of course you wanna be using that. We're using conscious brain right now. People who are listening to this are probably using most of their conscious brain. You need your default mode network. That's why when people are like, "Oh, I just had the best idea in the shower," because your default
Yes.
mode network is kicked in, or you're, like, outside playing with your kids, or you're on a walk in nature,
Yes.
you're at dinner with people and talking and just having a good time. We need that, like, not only for, like, okay, yes, you need a break from work, but, like, that's when your default mode network kicks in and can process information on a completely different level and give you better ideas and insights, but if you never take time off, like and I'm not saying just having fun, because I used to just, like, work hard, play hard, and it's like, "Okay, you also need to rest."
Yeah. Gotta get some sleep, drink some water and eat healthy food,
Yes.
some of the basics.
Yeah, and so if we can do those things, and then we're resetting our nervous system, we're gonna operate at a higher level, and that's how you remove the bottlenecks, and you'll find yourself doing so much more. Things take less time. It's like you're doing more with less.
Yeah, totally. And I think, ultimately, I was thinking this terminology earlier that I love so much is, flow state, feeling in flow, where, I don't know if you're familiar with, Esther Hicks, like Abraham
Oh,
Hicks.
of course, love Abraham, yes, and
Love, love,
Esther,
love,
yep,
lo
yep.
like, my husband and I just did a workshop with them, like, and we wanna go on one of their I don't know if it'll be a cruise, they do a lot of cruises, but, like, maybe a land thing or whatever, but, just the power of visualizing a stream and, you're not going to canoe up the stream, you're flowing with it and you're just looking for the rocks, right? Like just navigating and it's just a really smooth, when you see the paddling, it's like this forcing versus allowing, surrender, right? Like knowing, right? And I think that has to do a lot with like knowing we're guided.
Yes, and trusting that, having that certainty that I'm on the right path, and if I'm not, I'll figure it out, and I actually this is a really cool full circle moment because when you were telling the story of IndyCar and the pit crew people, so I actually did some work with a couple NASCAR pit crew teams, and I was talking them through, like, what are some of their mental blocks as they're out there? Because again, it is in NASCAR, it's, like, less than 10 seconds tired. And talking them through that, and one of the guys shared, "Hey, well, one of my blockers is I make a mistake." And then I'm just focusing on that rather than continuing to move forward, and so we did some visualization and just some work around, like, it's okay to make a mistake, like, you don't have to be perfect, you don't have to navigate the stream perfectly, it's more about trusting that you will correct, because what was happening for him is that he would get stuck and then slow down his whole thing rather than just like, "It's fine," and then move on to the next thing, and so many of us do that. We make one little thing or we say something weird or whatever, and then we just overanalyze the shit out of it, and we get stuck there, and we're not able to just keep going, and shame and guilt, which kind of falls into that same category, then we just, then we replay it day after and we're like, "Oh, I shouldn't have done this thing," and it's like that shame and guilt for things that we've done in the past are our biggest blockers to abundance, to growth, to more presence, to just being that, like, again, authentic, even though you're not crazy about that word, to being that true version of ourselves and operating from alignment.
Yes. Oh, this is so good, and we're running out of time. So I want to make sure that people know what you can coach them for and what you can speak about, all that. So, okay, well, one last thing before we go there. What is the greatest lesson learned for you personally, or your one truth that every leader needs to hear? Might have been something you already said, but if you were gonna leave this one nugget and you're gonna say, here's the number one priority, right? For someone to go try today, try this week. What is that?
I could say breath because we talked about that. If you're not breathing, just breathe. But kind of aligned with that is nervous system regulation. If you can regulate your nervous system, you can conquer the world. And I want to apply this not only to like overcoming shame, fear, whatever, but also for your goals. Like I talk to a lot of people about like, okay, rather than like, let's set goals. I used to do a lot of goal setting stuff. And instead now I'm like, okay, you have a goal, cool. I kinda care less about the goal. Who do you need to become in order to achieve that goal? Who is the version of you who has already achieved that goal? How are they different than you now? Cool, let's work on that person, because that is gonna be so much more powerful than a fucking strategy of, okay, like, here's the 12-point plan. Those are important too. One of my taglines is science, strategy, spirituality, so, like, I'm here for the strategy, right? But if we don't have the nervous system regulation and the alignment, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers, but yeah, I think nervous system regulation and then just being embodied in who you wanna be more than the things you want to achieve, the external things you want to achieve.
Yeah. Just call low. hit her up on LinkedIn, where we are linking her LinkedIn in here. We are linking to all the places that you can find her. Real quick before we go, tell us about your work. You do a few different things like speaking. You can work with teams. You can be hired by like an association. You do coaching, and there's a 90-minute performance breakthrough session.
Yes.
Tell us about that real quick.
Yes, so I do for people who are new to me, if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, this 90-minute performance breakthrough session is the best way to get started. It's not a discovery call, like, we're actually doing real work, and I use energy psychology to help you reprogram, and we find that big like, what the biggest blocker is, and then we remove it in real time in that 90-minute session, and it is awesome. Like, I've had so many cool sessions where I've removed helped people remove these blockers, and it's truly magical, and now, like, the more that I do this, I get insights or visualizations, and I'll share something with them, and I'll be like, "Here's what I kind of saw or visualized," and they're like, "Oh my god, I saw that same thing," or, like, I had a client the other day, and I was like, "Oh, I see," and it was one of the athletes that I work with, and I'm like, "I don't know, I'm seeing this, like, white kind of light flowing through your body as you're moving," and they're like, "Stop it," like, I saw that exact same thing. Kinda like, for, like, Harry Potter nerds, the Patronus was in Harry Potter, and I'm like, "Yes!" Like, that's what it was, it's crazy. So it's super fun and, yeah, I love doing that. And then for yeah, I do work with teams, workshops, or keynotes for larger groups, organizations, and, we talk about different bottlenecks and actionable things. Like, so I mean, so many things we talked about here today, but actionable things they can do to unblock themselves, right? Because like, to me, yes, it's about productivity, but it's actually about, like, how do we get you in alignment? And then that's where the better results come from, right? It's not like productivity hacks, it's like, let's get some functional things right, and then you're just gonna skyrocket all on your own.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, we will link to all the things so that we can just pop open those show notes and not even asking for a friend, asking for myself. So I'm looking for the link. So we will have that in the show notes. This has been so good. I took so much away from this. And if you're on YouTube or Apple, Spotify, wherever you find podcasts, we'd love to have you back on Gut Plus Science. I really hope you enjoyed my friend Lo.
We just left the world a little bit better. Now, go do something with it.